Welcome to This is Concrete, a podcast where we speak with the people whose work revolves around concrete and coatings. Let's get to what you came for.
Hello, I am Chad Gill, and I'm here today with Michael Fortinberry. Michael is based out of New York City. He's the co-founder and the COO of Protiv, our productivity-based compensation platform. He is a former senior VP at Perennial Construction Solutions, the largest multifamily turnover and renovation company. Founder of Sciovia, that he ran from 2010 to 21, business and leadership advisory service, and he is a certified sailing instructor. So, Michael, welcome to. I don't know how we're going to get into sailing, but I'm sure we can do it and get some tips there.
We can spend the whole conversation on sailing there, Chad. That would be great. I love it. I wouldn't hurt my feelings at all.
That is my first job I went to interview for. I walked into this guy who was supposed to be a tough interviewer, and he had a poster on his wall of skydiving. So I asked him about skydiving, and 40 minutes later, I left with a deep knowledge of skydiving, and he knew nothing about me. So I got the job.
I love it. That is the perfect interview. Well done.
Yeah, exactly. So how did you come to, you have a pretty deep background in both technology and construction and real estate. Can you kind of walk us through that path? And starting out in the military.
Yeah, so I've had a chance to work within large-scale multifamily operations as well as large-scale construction operations, and effectively building quite a few technology tools for both those industries. So my background, I kind of speak all three languages, if that makes sense. I understand how technology can leverage operational performance of construction and real estate companies. In particular, construction has been my passion for the last probably decade or so. Insofar, the construction has a huge gap in its growth of productivity relative to other vertical industries. There was a report recently that McKinsey did on construction productivity has only gone up 1% in the last 20 years. Manufacturing's up 35% productivity. I mean, it's just, we're lagging behind other verticals in terms of just getting better about doing our jobs more efficiently. So I've kind of, headed down that road in terms of seeing what code we could crack to improve upon that.
That's an interesting fact. I mean, it's, when you think about it, manufacturing is still pretty labor heavy, but obviously there's robotics and there's other enhancements and change of manufacturing methods and materials. But construction, it's still labor. I mean, you still got to carry an I-beam, you still got to use a crane. We've gotten better equipment, safer equipment, but it doesn't seem to be getting a lot faster per se. Although we're doing a lot of things at the same time that probably used to be more linear.
Yes, absolutely. So in 2019, we started looking at Perennial's construction operations through the lens of compensation and productivity, knowing that we really wanted to reward our team for what they delivered to us. We do a lot of high volume multifamily renovation work. There's a lot of painting, a lot of carpentry, a lot of cleaning, tile work, kitchens, baths, that kind of thing. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of projects across New York City. And we realized because we were doing so much the same work over and over again, we knew what our labor costs should be, and we still had that variability to it. We really needed our guys to step it up. And we found such a difference in performance between our best people and our less, performing level folks. And we realized what's the difference here? And as we did some studies on it, really looking deeply, we found certain employees just waste less time. It's not that they work faster. They just don't waste a lot of time. They get to the job site. They keep their job site clean. They're efficient from the minute they step on. They have their materials organized. They're just doing things the right way. And so we thought, how do we incentivize our team to do things the right way, to not waste time at the job site, to be efficient, keep their job site clean? And we looked at every kind of bonus program you can imagine, Chad. I'm sure you guys have tried bonus programs after bonus programs, right?
For sure.
Our realization was that we needed to link very clearly their compensation to what they produced. And encouraging them to do that within the realm of still staying safe and doing quality work. So we linked those together and created something we originally called Project Pay. We now call it ProPay. And the idea being, when we would create a fixed amount, dollar amounts, $500 for tiling this, kitchen or bathroom maybe. And when you complete the job, you got paid that money. And if it took you 10 hours, then you just made $50 an hour. You took 20 hours, you made $25 an hour. It became a very clear performance driver. If you get the job done more quickly, you earn more per hour. The results were absolutely blew us away. We were stunned at the level of productivity the team could hit when they were really motivated to do so.
So we did we tried similar things, and now I'm so elated to find your system. But I guess I want to kind of roll back and say, so if you're not an owner and you're listening to this, I think it's something I hear so much in EO from other owners is, we want to reward our people for doing more work and making more money. And I think that is for sure the case with all good owners. I would say, always have to do people, but I don't think people understand that really is a motivating factor for an owner. We want to have our people make more. We want them to do more, have things, see things. Nothing makes me happy than seeing an employee with a new vehicle, a new home, it's things like that. And you Absolutely. Do want to pass it along. So then how do you convey that to your employees or your subcontractors or whomever you're working with, so they understand and get it to not see you as an overbearing, they're just trying to drive me and get everything I can out of me.
Yeah, well, I think I actually going to go to a quote that we just got from a customer who just joined, Ohio Signature painting company out in Ohio. And one of the owners there, Brett, had been on the program for just a couple of weeks, and he sent us a note. His quote was that on the employee side, they feel way more involved in the business now because they're sharing how much they should be spending on labor. And they feel significantly more important because now they want us to win just as much as we want them to win. So as an owner, he took that concept and said, I'm going to show my guys, here's where I need to be on labor. And if you guys help me to do better than this, you're going to benefit from it. And he created a linkage, a partnership with his employees that was transformational. And it was transformational on the first job. Like as soon as he laid this out for his team and it got everybody on board, they realized we're going to do better. Now, a lot of us have tried similar things where we say, look, if you guys do better on this job, I'm going to give you some more money. The real challenge with that is that it needs to be paid on their paycheck in a way they very much see it right away. There's an engagement element to this, and I'll call it a chronological proximity between the effort and the reward that needs to come together at the same time. Quarterly bonuses, monthly bonuses, let alone a year-end bonus, are too separated from the event to get an hourly worker, a guy who's working, paycheck to paycheck to pay his bills, for it really to change his behaviors. You want someone to change their behavior, you show them how what you're doing today, what you're doing this week, is going to change your paycheck on Friday. That is transformational. And it's automatic. You're not hoping your supervisor approves it. You're not wondering if maybe they're going to pay me this week. They don't have the money next week. To be able to do that automatically and it not cost the company any more money, that's what really sets us apart.
And so I definitely want to explain how it kind of works so that people understand that better. But, knowing that the resistiveness that I run into when we try to implement systems like this, the other questions that come up are, we'll get those out of the way early. So as an employee, if they come to you and go, yeah, but if I show you how fast I can really work, what's going to keep you from saying, hey, this used to be a 10-hour job. Now you're telling me, and I've shown you that I can do it in 5, and now you're only going to bid it for 5. I'm kind of cutting my own throat here.
So like anything, if you rotate to the extreme, you're going to get unintended consequences. And in those kind of cases, start to try and take advantage of your employees and work them. I'll say if you ask them to work above and beyond without compensating them for the above and beyond, you'll lose people. And there's just like, I've got to work so much harder here to get the same thing. I can go work for Bob and not have to work as hard and I get the same thing. So you risk losing your core employee base if you over rotate. The goal here shouldn't be, I should say, to take advantage of the employee. It should be to create a partnership with the employee. You've got a number in your head, right? So you go to bid a job, you say, I'm gonna do your concrete side. So you're gonna, put some concrete in your case, polishing concrete. I'm gonna do X number of, square feet. And I believe my labor cost is gonna be Y. If you're comfortable with that labor cost, you say, I'm comfortable with this costing me $1. The goal isn't to say, let me see if I can get it done for 70 cents, because you were already comfortable if the labor cost was $1. That was your target number, your margin, your goal. So, okay, stick with that. Maybe you want to make it 95 cents just to have a little bit of benefit from it, which is, we totally think is practical. The reality is your guys are going to get it done faster because they're really motivated to do so. They're going to pay attention to quality because they don't want to do rework. I can't stress how important that is. You can't just have guys work faster. They have to be tied to the quality. If they're not done right, they're still working on their dime, which is a really interesting dynamic to the whole thing. You'll see, guys, we have testimonials of employees saying, I care more about quality now than ever because I don't want to go back. It's not in my financial, it's like it hurts me financially if I have to go back to the job and do it again. I really want to get this done right the first time. That's how I make more money.
And as the owner, you totally understand that. As a project manager, anywhere in that chain, you get it because you see that return trip has such a high cost. But as the guy who's working hourly, you don't get it. But once you're involved in it, for sure.
Yeah, rework. I swear, rework is the definitive problem with most of, certainly our side. The minute we had to send somebody back to do something, our margins just aren't that great. We couldn't eat rework. We basically one rework and we're breaking even, and if I had to go fix two things, I probably just lost money. I mean, it's that it was always that simple. So got to get it right.
So now the question shifts to the owner who's skeptical and he says, okay, wait a minute. If my labor costs aren't really going to go down, I appreciate the fact that I'm going to have defined labor costs. That's awesome. That's a huge deal. That limits your risk there. But now you're saying I'm not going to keep trimming my labor. So how do I make more money?
So you've got a couple of options here too. Depends on what your business situation is, how you want to execute this. And we've had clients do this a couple different ways. I'm even sharing with you how we approached it in our own company. Once you have a defined labor cost, we'll take your $1,000 project that might have, $400 in labor costs. If you believe that job, you're profitable at $400 at the target, numbers that you've set, you might want to say, I'm good with that. I'm going to set it at $400. I just want my team to be done faster because I've got a backlog of work and I can get them onto another job. We have a decking company that just came to us with that exact scenario. They're ecstatic. Their guys are making they made 24% more money per hour because they are absolutely killing it. The owner's ecstatic because he's got a backlog of work. He can go staff his guys to the next job. He's finishing jobs 2, 3, 4 days ahead of time, moving guys to the next project, making more money as a company. That's one approach. Another is if you actually want to reduce your labor costs, maybe you feel like you've been a little bit high on labor and you realize, you know what, I can pull 5, 7, 10% out of my projected labor, assign that ProPay, what we call that ProPay amount, maybe 10% less than what I thought it would have cost or what it cost me to do the same job last time. So if the last time that was a $400 job in labor, maybe this time you set it for $360 and kind of see how it goes. See where you guys end up on their hourly rate. So you can tweak that fixed labor cost a little bit to reduce your projected labor on your P&L, which is, one approach. Certainly, there's value in dialing those numbers up and down a little bit and finding the right model for your company.
And I think that, it would be short-sighted to say that labor is your only cost. It absolutely is not. I mean, when you're going back for rework or you stay longer on the job, absolutely capacity is huge. Not many of us are sitting around thinking, oh, what am I going to do tomorrow? It's how am I going to get it done tomorrow? But so that additional capacity is more revenue dollars per day. But
Yes.
also, that's opportunity cost. But in further, it's like rework. That's additional fuel. That's additional, license. It's everything that's associated. That's all around the labor. Additional risk. That's time on the job that people are capable of having a safety event or being able to get caught on a speeding ticket or held up in traffic. Tons and tons of savings come from less time on the job.
Yes, get it done right the first time. Some companies are also looking at their labor pool and saying, how do I accomplish more with the same team that I have? Others are saying, you know what, I've really got two guys that I don't really want to keep them. I just feel like I have to right now. If those other 8 people you have on your team all of a sudden start producing 20% more, those low performers are a whole lot less important to your company and allows you to maybe do the same work you're doing now with a smaller team, more efficient team.
For sure. Yeah, and I think that's a key ingredient to, keeping, that's a great way you can keep your A performers. And then recruiting wise, what are people saying about recruiting? Like if you pay differently, how does that affect when you're trying to find people?
We actually lead with this in recruiting. We have about 100 employees. We'll probably push up to about 130 this summer here in New York. And we actually lead with the conversation about ProPay. We find that it attracts the right kind of people. When someone realizes that they have some control over how much they're going to earn based on the quality of their work and the speed of their work, you get guys coming in hungry because they're like, you know what, I'm really good at what I do, and if you're willing to pay me for how I produce, I want that. I'll take that bet. And we actually have some pretty direct conversations with guys that if you can't produce, you're going to make a lot less than the guy standing right next to you who can produce. And so we don't have to take someone's word for it anymore. We find out pretty quickly on the job they're either trending above or below on their what we call wage growth. And if they're set at $25 an hour and they're not making 27, something's wrong. They're not performing where everybody else is. So we're pretty dialed in on that recruiting conversation. We also do not lose our best guys. Your best team members will love Protiv. They will like it the most because they perform at the highest level. They produce the most work per hour. They will make the most money, and you will not lose your best people. Your worst employees will like it the least. In fact, they probably won't stay. It's just your worst people don't like being paid on what they produce. It doesn't work for them.
It's no different than, sales has been this way for years and years. A salary salesperson is not going to sell like a commission salesperson.
Yeah. There's a lot difference in their aggressiveness, attention to detail. One thing that not a cautionary thing, but I always let clients know when they're coming on to Protiv is that your employees' conversation with you is going to change. They're going to call you at 7 a.m. and say, why are my materials not here? I'm ready to go. Yeah. Right. Can I stay late? I want to get this job done because I want to get to another one. They will push you for, I would like a different tool, a different technique. Can we stage this project differently in a way? They will come to you with ideas that they may have been sitting on. Some will work, some won't. But the fact they're coming to work with their brain is like a gift with purchase, right? You've been hiring them for their back, to do some task for the last decade. And now they're going to come in and start thinking. That was just an amazing thing to watch.
Who better knows how to do the job in a more efficient way than them? They're already sitting around at home going, gosh, they let me run it. This is what I would do. Now they're going to bring that to you.
You're spot on. And some of them care enough that they may have brought it up in the past. And those guys you probably made your supervisors, right? Because they were the ones who cared a little bit more. The reality is the rest of them would care if they're correctly motivated. Human beings do what they're motivated to do, what they're inspired to do. And you can motivate them through leadership or fear, and those things work sometimes. we've got a way to give them motivation with some money, and it's not the end all be all type of motivation, but it does work really well for hourly workers. Money, as much as we love intrinsic motivation of I want to do a good job because it makes me feel better, when you're trying to get your rent paid, you really want to make enough money. You want to do a good job because you make more money. That's
Yeah,
just,
I mean, it's how you keep score. I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves that while I would love for my, painters to care deeply about the quality of their work on an intrinsic level, I will take it that they care deeply because I pay them to. That's
Right.
okay too.
Yeah. No, I think that makes total sense. So, what about when somebody says, okay, it sounds to me like you're just turning everybody into subcontractors. And I know that this is different. What's the value of having, you would get all of this in a similar way from a owner operator, small subcontractor.
Yeah.
Why go to, project-based pay and maintain these in-house employees and all the liabilities and things like that?
Well, look, there are pros and cons to subcontractor operated businesses. Not if every single company was a GC, who would be doing the work, right? Somebody has to have an employee, somewhere along the food chain. So I'm not really trying to solve this for someone who views their business as a general contractor. We do have a subcontractor model coming that fits alongside this. That's something we're working on. It's mostly tied to people who have handshake deals with their subs. We think that there's an opportunity because with subcontractors, you tend to get this gap between handshake deals with people hey, can you come do this? I'll give you $500 to do it, whatever. This casualness to subcontracting. Or you have the other side, which is very, very formal, AIA contracts, very structured approaches to using subcontractors with lots of paperwork. There is a lot of tools for the one side and almost no tools to help Bob's renovation, who just needs to use Jim to do some painting, right? That he's just not doing a big contract with Jim, and he's hoping Jim shows up, and he's hoping Jim comes with as many people as he's supposed to have. So we're looking at a model that's a very simple compensation tool for subs that just says you're going to get awarded this subcontract for $1,000. If you get it done on the day you're supposed to get it done, you get $1,000. You get it done a day sooner, you still get $1,000. You get it done the day after, you get $950. And it's just very simple. We're not trying to solve the entirety of subcontracting contractual challenges, but it's just simple, basic. When are you going to get the job done? Because I've got somebody else coming in behind you, and keeping people on schedule. 30% of construction jobs finish on time. 30%. We're terrible at this. We should all find something different to do for a living, right? It's contractors are just not good at staying on schedule. And if I could just solve that with a subcontractor tool to help guys who, a lot of people have a mix, right? You've got some employees, some subs, use subs to handle the seasonal variation or spikes in work. We want to be able to have compensation flowing through Protiv to deal with both sides of that. There's no doubt there's pros and cons to subs. And our company has traditionally been more of a self-performance group. We probably do 5% of our work with subcontractors. And there are times when I think, oh my gosh, maybe it's better if we just had all subcontractors. There's other times when I'm like, oh my gosh, subcontractor, I can't get them to show up. Where are their people? Why aren't we done yet? It's just as you're chasing your subs. Sometimes it's easier to have people you are actually your employees. You can tell them when to be there, tell them what to do, control, what they're wearing, the whole set of things that you have sometimes challenges with subcontractors.
All right. So at a 30,000 foot level, how does it work?
So it starts with creation of a ProPay. And our fundamental beginning is an understanding of your labor costs. So a contractor looks at a project, says, I got a $5,000 project. I think I'm going to have $2,200 in labor on it, $1,000 in labor, whatever your numbers are. Different industries are different. You create a ProPay for that amount. That ProPay is the fixed amount that will be paid when the job is done. The employee or employees, if it's a team ProPay, receive a text on their phone that shows them the job, how much they're going to make for it, etc. They show up to the job just like they usually would. They do the work. Supervisors that are managing, you still have to manage for quality and safety and all the normal things. When the job is complete, the employee is paid on their next paycheck automatically that rate based on how many hours it took them to complete the job. So we're in the back end converting that fixed amount. This is what the software is really the magic behind. It's all the Department of Labor, Fair Labor Standards Act, California break rules, all the different things that you have to do to correctly convert that to an hourly rate. We then give you your payroll report, and you submit your payroll report over to ADP or Paychex, whoever you're using for payroll. So the big part I also want to add is the engagement with the employee is really important. As they're doing the work, we show them, they can look on their phone at a calculator that says, if I finish the job on this time and this many more hours, here's how much more I make per hour. So they actually can, as a team, they can talk to each other and say, look, let's hurry this job up. Let's finish faster. Let's get this job done sooner. If we get this job done on Thursday instead of Friday, look how much more money we make. So you've got a motivating engagement with the employee that helps them understand their potential to make more money if they don't waste time at work. A few other little details to it. If the job does run over, like it just takes longer than you expected it to take with your initial labor cost, the team just makes their normal hourly rate. It's really no different than it would have been without the project pay in place. So it just accounts for that as normal hourly rates, and people didn't make a bonus on that job. Sometimes that's because they didn't have the right materials, or because the job wasn't bid right, or maybe they just didn't work very hard on that project. Whatever the reason that the job went over, we call it overage, and we give you a report and highly encourage you to analyze why you went over on projects that end up not creating a bonus for the employees.
And I know we talked, and you have the ability, if you're like, hey, you're on the job and the job gets delayed and they get held up for 2 hours because of another trade, or there's a fire alarm goes off, who knows what. There's ways to compensate for that too, right?
Absolutely. You can always adjust it to be fair. The goal isn't to take advantage of the employees. The goal is to reward them for doing their part more quickly and finish, not wasting time on the job, getting the job done sooner. You know that U.S. workers waste $10.5 billion a year on fantasy football.
Yeah.
$10.5 billion a year. Just it's they sit around and they're checking who they're starting at tight end this week. The reality is we have some of that within our workers, but a lot of where we find the lift in productivity is just being more efficient. It's not that they're not working, it's just they're not working as efficiently as they could. It's not in their interest to do so. It makes no difference to them whatsoever. And maybe a little bit here and there if you give them a hard time. We actually look at the impact of raises. You might say, well, I'm paying someone $20 an hour now and I start paying them 22 because I want them to work harder. I want more from them. That actually does have an impact for a few weeks, and then it begins to trail right off, and they're kind of right back to where they were before the raise in a month and a half or so. If you look at quarterly bonuses, monthly bonuses, they all have a little spike in productivity because I got a little bit of extra money. Maybe it changed my behavior, sometimes only for a few days, and it's right back down to where it was before. The difference here is that the action and the reward is every week. They see it on their paycheck every week. That constant reinforcement, and it's automatic. The company doesn't have to do any crazy tracking or spreadsheets or any manual entry. And someone frankly could do this manually if you wanted to do enough spreadsheet work with enough, getting a good labor lawyer to make sure you're following the rules. But there's nothing here that you couldn't do manually. It's just really, really hard to do, and we don't charge very much to do it for you. So pretty
you
easy.
You could walk to work. It's just your car is quicker.
It's just easier. Yeah.
That's right.
I'm going to use that. That's a good analogy.
We always did it the same way. You could have come in on a horse. But Tom Boer was a guy that he's a consultant down in Georgia, and he does a lot with incentive plans, and he has a company called ProfitWorks. And one of the things he pointed out and called about was the time horizon. How long different people look out. And it's kind of what you're talking about, the bump of a raise and stuff like that. But it was the idea that an hourly worker needs to see these things happening every week.
Yes.
When you get
Absolutely.
higher up in a company and you have more vision of what you can see around you, then a 90-day quarterly thing may matter to you because that affects you. But you need to find out, you need to compensate based on the time horizon appropriate for that position. I love the feedback you're talking about, daily, certainly weekly, right in your paycheck in an easy to understand way is fantastic.
Yeah, engagement is a big part of it. When we look at what makes this successful, the creation of Propay is constant. You need to put all your projects on it so your team is just engaged in it. You communicate with the team that this is our way of doing business. We want you guys to make more money, and we're going to show you what our labor costs are. You guys kill it, you're going to do better. If you don't, then it's going to be really obvious. You're going to make the same you're making now. The second part is getting the team to be engaged day to day. So when we support that by sending them, again, their little calculator tool so they can see exactly what their potential earnings are. The potentiality of the earnings lift is what changes the behavior. It's not the actual check itself. The check itself is not the change. It is the potential of the check. And that's where the engagement part, that with the little calculator, they can see I might make an extra amount of money. I can make 10% more. You know what 10% is worth to our industry? 10% in labor, 10% in earnings. It is colossal. Our industry's got a shortage of 1 million workers between now and 2026. 1 million workers short. 10% lift in productivity, and we have 700,000 employee surplus. Yeah. I mean, it is that big of an impact on what we're talking about. We could literally reshape the nature of construction labor in the United States simply by, if we got 10% more productivity out of a group. That actually pretty much solves all of our labor problems in the entire country for the construction in one thing.
Yeah, that's huge.
Now, I'm probably not going to get, I don't know how fast I can scale this company up, but
But that potential plays in. I mean, the potential is what makes people buy lottery tickets. It's what beeps. It's, if you don't believe in people working hard for potential payout, yeah, absolutely. But you have to hear the stories of the wins. And I think what you're talking about is, doing that and then having your employees telling people what they're doing, and that brings you good people. It kind of runs people that are not the best out and brings in the ones that are stronger. Man, this has been fantastic, man. I really appreciate you taking the time with us. I think it's
absolutely
super applicable to contracting in pretty much anywhere if you're doing employees. But this is a great way to do it. So thanks a lot for taking the time, and I look forward to learning more about Protiv later.
Chad, we'll talk some more. Take care. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to This is Concrete. We look forward to you joining us next time. Be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.